Oh well, good evening. Sorry, we suffered a bit of a technical difficulty there. It seems we just got kind of disconnected and left in the dark.
It's not good evening. It's good morning.
Strictly speaking, it's good night.
No, it's morning. It's 1 o'clock. It's going on 1 o'clock.
So,
Fight me.
is it then good day?
No. It's not day yet. It's still pretty dark outside.
Dark.
You know, until that sunshine rises. I think we can say good morning, but that's about as far as we can go with that one.
But linking to what Stephen was saying before the stream cut off, and that is with regards to V8s maybe disappearing in future and all that. Now, me being a slightly more older type of person.
What do you call old?
No, I'm not saying old. I'm saying a slightly older type of person. I find the same enjoyment taking a shifter car on normal AC and just driving it. That sensation is also one of those fabulous things that you can only experience within the sim world.
Well, you know, it's
nobody can afford to go and buy a 250 GTO.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Ferrari and go and drive it, but there you can hear it, you can feel it, shift it manually, and just have fun with it.
And you know, we're talking about the older type of cars, not really older type of cars, but something me and Steven still very much wants to do is we want to do something like the Bathurst 1000 in those Aussie V8s, because you know, those things you need to heel and toe on the downshifts and all of those kind of things. You need to use the clutch on the downshift, and you know, it's a whole different driving style.
Yeah.
Those races are amazing.
And those things are just wild and all over the place.
Well, and that's it. I mean, you know, we taking a look at the GT cars going around. I personally enjoy using an H pattern shifter, or even a sequential. There's something about the feeling of taking a hand off a steering wheel, knowing that it's probably going to put you in the wall at some point, but you're going to give it a try in any case. You know, I'm going to be participating in a season where the guys are racing a Lotus 79, and I've been constantly pushing that we need to do at least one season, and it's a lot of guys saying, but why do you want to be in such an old thing? And there's a couple of us that are saying, get a shifter, go and drive around with a clutch and see how it feels, learn how to heel and toe. But it also comes in handy with like the GT3 cars. For anyone that's got a clutch, they can just go and put on the clutch to try and save a bit of fuel. It's little things like that can benefit, and the sim world does allow us to experience those type of things and go racing. I mean, let's be honest, when are we ever going to climb into a Peterson Lotus freely and get told if you break it, don't stress about it?
Nobody. But heel and toe is difficult, Stephen. I mean, I've tried it on AC, and it's for a person that's never done it or never done any form of real racing. It's difficult to get your legs moving in a whole new way that I think only Elvis found that natural.
Well, you know, if you've done it and you've gotten used to it, it becomes quite a natural type of movement, you know, as you press that clutch to just blip that throttle with your heel. It's actually not that difficult, but you need to get used to it.
Yeah.
Because
my legs, I feel like I've got two left feet when I try and do that.
Now, it's the trick comes in heel and toe is to still have that constant pressure on the braking pedal as you shift your heel across, because what a lot of guys tend to do is as they press the clutch in and they shift their heel, they go harder on the brake pedal.
Yeah, or lighter on the brake pedal.
or lighter on the brake pedal. So
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. It's
But-
not easy it's not an intuitive thing.
But I
for
think
a person that's never done it
Steven
before.
knows a lot more about. Oh, we see a car going into the wall there in the background. Who was that? Looks like it was Darius the toy. Having a bit of a.
Is that the learner Aston?
That is indeed the
It
learner
is the
Aston.
learner Aston, yes.
Stephen, I don't know. I congratulated them on this livery. If we can just quickly have a look at it, there's actually a learner driver on the back of it. Does that sound familiar?
Give them the first place award. They want it. There we go. Hands down. No, just beating around the bush. It's awesome to see you guys adding a bit of a flair or a sense of humor in terms of liveries. I'm gonna just point out something to you guys. Do you know what's one of the most trickiest things for guys in real racing that a lot of guys actually struggle with? That for sim racers is not a problem.
Left foot braking.
Exactly that. Using your left foot to go on the brakes.
That's interesting, actually.
Where sim racers are used to it because, that's what you do. A lot of guys that come from the world of racing struggle with it. It's a bit of a foreign thing to deal with. Yeah, you will have the guys that eventually start working up to it, but you'll see a lot of the older racers tend to stick away from left foot braking because you have to reteach your brain how to do it. But this is much like heel and toe. We touched on this a little bit earlier. It's not about the gear. It's all about repetition. It's all about practice. It's all about doing those laps, making those mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then carrying on forward. Like finding that perfect line, how to enter the corner, how to move your way around, what to look out for. It's just repetition, and getting those laps in. Put in that little bit of elbow grease. There's no quick way of trying to, put in a cheat code or anything to go faster. It's just about putting in the effort, and you will come out better by the end of it.
It definitely is. I think you said earlier, having people like Sherrod as well who sort of push the envelope in terms of, what's achievable as well. I see it as motivation as well to just get quicker. You see people being at a certain level, and being competitive, you want to get there. So it definitely helps, and that's why I think we're also lucky in the sense of the community we have, especially in the RaceFace sense. But the community in sim racing as a whole is quite welcoming. You get into a server, there are so many practice servers, and you ask for help, and someone will gladly sit there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and they tell you what you're doing wrong, or even the quicker guys. So it's such a more welcoming community than people realize, and you don't get that in sort of other esports.
No, not at all. Guys are willing to tell you a little bit of tricks to the trade of how to improve. Look, no one's going to give you everything. You've got to hold some secrets, that's for certain. But having a bit more of a welcome area, and even if you approach guys like Barrett, Zar, Essa, Cody or Jordan Barrett, going to anyone, more people are more welcoming to say, okay, well, let's take a look. Okay, now you getting this wrong, that wrong, but we can adjust it on this and the next thing, which is always fantastic to see. And in the real racing world, you do have some of that, but whoever is more in the lines of your top echelons of racing, they tend to hold back a bit, because the moment that you get ahead is the moment that the sponsors pull away from you.
Yeah.
And that's where money comes into play. So I think it's absolutely amazing to see how guys have developed and how it's all come to be. My honest experience, I used to be the slowest person in the world. Now I am the world's fastest back marker.
No. I'm just gonna correct Stephen on that point. Stephen, I'm gonna be honest, Stephen. In a GT3 car, you're about a midfield driver, because I don't think it's really the car for you. But put Stephen in one of those open wheels, like the Lotus 79, like Formula 4 or a Formula 3 or a Formula whatever car. Then Stephen becomes an absolute monster, and he's duking out with the quickest guys out there because those are his cars. So I'm correcting you on that.
That's you're being a bit too kind there, but yeah, going back to realistically, at the start of COVID, I came into sim racing not knowing how to do things properly, but when it got into it, I actually got to work with the likes of Eddie Francis from Monday Night Racing and a couple of other guys where they showed me the ropes. They said, okay, well, this is how you meant to do it. This is how you meant to go through it. Even the likes of Jason Isherwood and his whole retro racing team went and guided me through a huge amount of it. And I remember sitting with Jason, aka Dabby, who sat down with me for 2.5 hours telling me everything I got wrong, how to fix it. And by the end of it, he got grey hairs because I kept doing the same thing wrong and wrong and wrong. But the patience of everyone to try and develop the competition, to get more people involved, and I think the temperament is fantastic. What we have, the guys' temperament of, well, instead of breaking people down, let's build people up to make sure everything is okay. That's what it's come down to, realistically. And honestly, I think that's the right way to do things. And that's what we're seeing in the case of, like, with the 24-hour, a lot of guys either teaming up with their friends, or we've seen people say, listen, I'd like to participate in the 24-hour, will anyone have me? And getting a seat in this, because it's an experience. And it's the only way that you're going to get it. You're going to have to ask. And you will have people coming out to you and saying, hey, listen, let's make a plan. You're not going to be alone. That's it. Everyone's in it for the same thing. It's a hobby, it's a passion. And I think that's where it is, a passion. What we're doing here is just out of the love of being a petrol head and the inspiration of having a bit of fun duking out with one another. That competition is always great, but we're petrol heads and we want to share our passion with everyone, even if they don't want to hear it.
Definitely. I just want to touch on something quick, actually. The second place got a drive-through earlier, and now it's actually resulted in a nice little battle with us. So it's
so at this
actually quite
stage,
close at the front.
At this stage,
So
you guys are 2.3 seconds behind the LNR team. Nice going.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just greet you for a while. I'm up next, so there's some strategy for you. Gentlemen, you want some strategy? There you go. So everybody's just tapping their hands. Okay, the slow guy's gonna drive now.
Yeah, so the half of the commentary team is in the fight for second place. So we don't want to be we don't want to be biased, but if you guys need to leave and do what you need to do. If you need to go driving, so
yeah, I'm gonna go drive some cars around the track in the dark. Nothing scary about that at all.
No, not at all. And don't think about that the commentators are talking about your car. Commentators first does not exist, okay?
No. We've seen Reggie, that Reggie didn't curse anybody. Janeman didn't have any influence on anybody. So yeah, but I'll catch you guys again later on.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, we're the fastest Audi on track. So
There we go.
we've already won one category.
The Audi category.
Well, if it helps, the SAES had an Audi take the victory over 9 hours over the likes of a Lamborghini. So, yeah, Audi's got good luck at the moment. BOP is working just fine.
I think that Audi is a really well balanced car. It's just pace wise, it just performs generally well.
It's also the best mid-engine starter car in ACC. I know a lot of, if we had to talk about starter cars, your Astons are very good, your BMs have now started taking that place, but the Audi has always been the best starter mid-engine that can take you all the way to advanced. You're not going to recommend jumping into a McLaren or a Porsche straight off the bat because of naturally how they work. The Audi just, well, you can't go wrong with an Audi at this point.
No,
it's got 4 rings on it. It's got 4 wheels. There we go. Sorted. It even tells you it's going to work. It doesn't have a raging bull or a prancing horse that wants to throw you off the back.
Stephen, now, can you share your story about the Audi when you first got into GT3 racing?
In sim racing.
In sim racing.
Oh boy.
I'm putting him on the spot here.
Was this in the original Audi or in the newer one now?
No, this was still in the original.
Okay.
So when I got into sim racing, I didn't think much. I didn't think much of GT3. I was just, it's an Audi, and I was jumping into another series. And to participate, and I thought, I'm going to be smart here. I'm going to be clever. I'm going to think of something that's going to handle all conditions. It's going to have the advantage through the corners. It's got enough rotation on it. It's going to be great. I'm going to pick the 4-wheel drive Audi. Just to go into my first race and realize, oh shit. Excuse it is, but that is literally what it was. And I landed up with a rear-wheel drive car, thinking I was going to be smart, and I thought I was smarter than the rest of sim races because come on, I race cars. To much my surprise, I found out it's rear-wheel drive.
The GT3 Audi isn't 4-wheel drive.
In the wet, around Kyalami, I was the slowest thing in the world, and I was making an absolute mess of it.
Can you imagine if it was 4-wheel drive? You would have been the smartest person ever.
No, that's it. I'd probably be excluded from the results. That's flat out what it is. I'd be excluded. Actually, genuine, I was excluded out of the first race due to I was too slow, ironically enough, too slow. And a couple of guys did complain, and one of them was Jordan Terrace because I was too slow on the circuit in the sim. So they told me, come back when you've learned how to drive a little bit more. And that's how I got into Monday Night Racing, because I had to figure out how to get a bit more pace out of this car and how to set it up, because you can't just click drive and it's done. It's not much like the social sims I've got. I can't say sims, the casual racing games like in the Undergrounds and that. I had to learn the basics, and even though it's a sim that I thought I can apply real life to, it's not quite the case. It's got its own little nuances that change out, and you have to try and develop the things. So I think that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. I think that's where having the likes of the extra bit of coaching that we've got from sim racers and from the faster sim racers also getting involved does help. It helps bridge that gap into things. I also thought buying setups was going to make me the fastest person on the circuit because I bought a David Perel setup,
Yeah.
He makes the sim race just to duly learn that the setups don't suit me at all. It's far too loose. And these are things that you get told, buy this, do this, and you will be the fastest thing. When it's not the case. And it had to go, I had to take steps back and chat to the average Joes of sim racing. Not your faster guys, but just your average Joes that can break it down into simple language of your right foot is the throttle, your left foot is the brake, this is your steering wheel, this is what a screen looks like. It's a 2D image. Don't try and put your head through it. This is where it comes in. That's just FOV. I mean, I've originally had my sim rig off to the left-hand side of my room. I was turning my head at about a 45-degree angle, looking up at a 50-degree angle, and I was sitting about 2 meters away from my screen, which is miles away, and you're not getting the right perspective. And I actually got stopped and said, whoa, listen, rather put the screen closer to you because you're going to have a better time. It's going to work a little bit better. And true as Bob, it worked a bit better. Who knew being closer to the windscreen was actually a good idea?
Just going back a step there, you said, they touched on you being too slow, you should come back at a later time. How good of a motivation is that to just get quicker? It just pushes you because you want to be competitive.
Well, that's the thing. It hurts, but I look to jump into a serious league instead of going through the social side and building up the skills, honing the skills. You look at the lines, the starstrucks, and getting told you're too slow. It hurt like crazy, but at the same time, it drove me to look for a place where you can hone your skills. And I think that's where it comes in. You see these fast teams, like yourself. I mean, you're incredibly quick. You've lapped me more than enough times. I think between you and Yellowman, you've lapped me 10 times in a 3-lap race. That's you guys are the target. And now it's having to reach the targets. What do I need to do? These are things that people coming into sim racing are going to see. There's the targets. What do I need to do to reach that level? What do I need to do to last it? Much like it's 24 hours. A lot of people think, how on earth can I get involved? How on earth could I enter? What do I need to do? And realizing that it wasn't truly difficult. You can get your bunch of friends to have a bit of fun. You put in a little bit of effort to get to know the circuit, a little bit of setup, and you can do this. And climb out at the end of the 24. Doesn't matter where you finish. It's always a feeling of accomplishment, any endurance race, because it's outlasting the competition and pushing your own boundaries in the sense of endurance and what you are capable of. And these are the things that helps grow the endurance scene, because a lot of people are put off by the endurance. I mean, a 24-hour race realistically is taking up your weekend is gone. And not just your weekend. Everyone is spending weeks and weeks and weeks trying to build up to this single event. And that changes everything. That's the amount of effort that goes into it. But you don't have to go and spend every day of the week to do it. If you can take an hour, every second day or so, just to dial in the car a little bit, dial in yourself, get a little bit more practice, maybe set yourself some hot laps, go onto the practice servers with other cars, drive against them, see what your setups are capable of, see what you can do if you get put offline or if you have to put someone else offline. This is the different things. You can only get so far in hot lapping, going and putting yourself against the competition where servers are accessible.
That is true.
That goes and helps develop.
I mean,
and
in the
in
the world of sim racing, Stephen, we've seen it so many times where you put a guy on a hot lap server and they are blindingly fast on their own, but put them in a race with other cars around them and they immediately, they fall off the bus. They're nowhere because they can't race with the other cars because they've only been hot lapping the whole time.
And it has its place, but it drives you to do it. And as going back onto the question, is whatever failure or you get told, you can't think of a failure. It's a bump in the road. It's a going over a sausage curve. It's gonna hurt. Don't get me wrong. It's gonna bounce you. But you're always going to pull yourself in the right direction and you're going to give it another go. You're going to motivate yourself to get that little bit quicker, to get that little bit more consistent, to dial in that car a little bit more, hone your driving skill and just your driving skill, because no one's ever the same. No one's got the exact same driving ability. It doesn't matter if you have two of the fastest guys that seem like they've got the same aggression. Each of them have a different way of moving into a corner. Each of them have a different way of how they get back onto the throttle. And much in your team that's currently out on circuit, you've got different driving styles to try and cater for to really bring your way to the top, and it's all about teamwork to get to this point.
It's actually quite funny because if you just taking our team as an example, not a single one of us, we're all using the same setup, right? Because you're forced into it, but not a single one of us have the exact same tire pressures. Everyone is off by 0.1 on the front right, 0.1 on the back rear. It's just interesting how everyone just makes a different sort of line work into a corner, yet we're all similar paced.
Stephen will remember the story. I told it a little bit earlier in the race or in the stream. Me, Stephen, and I don't know if you guys remember Etienne Kleb. We did a 9-hour race together. And Etienne was doing roughly the same pace as me. So we thought my tire pressures would work on Etienne. And within, Stephen, I think it was 3 laps, he was shooting those front tire pressures beyond 37 PSI.
He was running at 38, 39s, and then when I tried running your guys' tire pressure, I was riding on the damn rim.
So yeah, it's very interesting how guys running similar pace with different driving styles, what influence that can have on the tire pressures. But
and that's where little calculations come into play of how you develop things. And well, you go in with a plan A, you turn on your PC, plan A is already out the door.
Yeah.
You open Discord, plan B's gone out the door already. You say hello, plan C's gone. By the time you've entered the race and you're already on plan D1ZF. It's got numbers behind it at this point because it's not the original plan that you had. And by the end of the race, it's not going to be the same because you're going through all different things. You may have something happen to you. You may have gained a little bit more pace. You may have dropped a wheel in the dirt and spun it round. Hurt your tires, used up a little bit more fuel than planned. Your strategy changes. That means your the only thing that you can change is your tire pressures, your traction control, your ABS, your brake bias. At this point, everyone's got their own liking of how that needs to be set so they can move their way around a corner. And especially with a setup that you're trying to cater for 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers in a team, it's always difficult because you're never going to have that ideal setup that's going to cater for one type of driver style.
It's always in these type of racing there is a compromise, and between me and you, Stephen, we normally find a midway point where we can make the car work.
Yeah, traction control all the way up because you have things far too loose.
Or it's just, take a default setup and drive it just the way it is.
Oh no.
We've had that. We've had that. We've had an endurance race where everything went wrong and got disconnected. We forgot to load the setup when we were driving a default setup, and at one stage we pretty much were certain we were driving a diesel Aston Martin.
No, we didn't think that. A certain M&R admin called. I'm not going to name anyone, but it may be that Mentum that was behind the wheel, and it landed up with Yannon and I racing as hard as we can after I think it was the 6th default setup we went through all sorts of weird and wonderful. You wouldn't believe how these GT3 cars can be as stiff as can be, or they can be as springy as gelatin. But after slugging it out, then switching over to the drivers and getting what was essentially our fastest driver in, landed up being the Achilles heel. And this is the thing about endurance racing, is you've got to put trust in your teammates to be able to carry all your work to the end.
Yeah.
Whatever you're going to do, you're going to be handing over that car, you're going to be handing over that work and saying, it's up to you now to make this. Either make us work or don't.
That's a lot of pressure. I mean, looking at it now, we're 14 hours in almost, and you get to that point where you mess up, and it's 4 hours of work on.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pressure.
Me and Stephen have done. Stephen, I think we've lost count of the amount of endurances we've done together. Anything from 4 hours right up to 24 hours, and me and Stephen being teammates for so long, there's that trust between the two of us where during an endurance race, and it has happened before, I became ill and I can go and sleep for 4 hours until I felt human again, and I come back and I know Stephen is just going to be there, the car's just going to be circulating, and if Stephen is not there, I knew something detrimental went wrong that caused him to stop the race, that would have resulted me in also saying it's time to stop, we can't continue. So it's a huge amount of trust that goes into it, and I sometimes hope Stephen would have the same trust in me.
Oh, definitely.
There's a patient.
This is the thing, it's all about going and trusting your team.
Yeah.
And even as a driver, while you're focusing, you've got to trust on your team to make the right call when you get into the pits. We actually had a case, and I'm going to lead on to a bit of what happened in real world racing, where a certain team, certain drivers, they had a team supporting them. One race they were going around and both their cars ran out of fuel before the end of the race, stopped dead on the track. Boom. That was it. They were at the top end of the field, and next thing they're out of fuel. And it also had where the team put the wrong amount of lead in, that trust was broken instantly amongst it. And we got down to this race that they were at, and the team was no more. Gone. Because where can you find that recovery point? And I think, if something has to go wrong, something steps out or the wrong call was made, yes, you're going to be angry. Yes, you're going to be bitter, but you've got to find a point where you can go, it was this race, that's on to the next one of how we can improve. And I think that's what's needed between everyone, and considering like a 24-hour, if one mistake happens, it's not your race completely over.
No.
You can always try and get back in it. You don't know what's going to happen. The only certainty you have is after 24 hours, there will be a checkered flag going and being waved.
Exactly. I mean, take our previous endurance race, which was a 24 a couple of weeks ago. Stephen, you were driving. You were part of a monumental crash that was no fault of your own. I mean, the car literally just drove into you. And that car was toast. And we just said, nope, we ain't done. We're going to fix this thing and we're going to carry on. And look what happened towards the end of the race. How circumstances all of a sudden started changing into our favor. And how we started making up those positions. Because you never know what, and you don't wish misfortune onto other people, but you don't know what will happen. Just, stick with it and try and reach that checkered flag.
That's the part of the beauty of just the whole endurance format. So much can happen and go wrong, and you can fix mistakes over a period of time if you just keep going. So
now, Stephen,
sorry to jump in there, but take a look at your team at the moment, where circumstances have put you in this place, the position that you're in. And now it's moving forward, it's going on, and watching your competition and eyeing out your competition and going, they had rough luck. So that gives us an opportunity, whether it's to add a bit of time to get ahead of guys or get a little bit closer to the cars ahead of you. There's an opportunity that's presented itself. You didn't wish ill on anyone, but
definitely.
If it happens, well, that's opportunity coming in. You've got to grab it with both hands. Otherwise, well, you're not in for the race.
Now, I quickly want to touch on something. A little bit earlier, this gentleman over here, Bertus Hugo, me and him chatted about different sins and those kind of things. Now, I'm going to be honest here, and people don't have to take me out. If there's one thing about ACC I can be a bit critical of, is this whole thing about the guy driving have to nominate drivers and set up pit stops. Because in real world racing, that's not how it works. Your pit crew does that. Now, unfortunately, I am going to compare it to iRacing because that's how iRacing works. I'm driving and Stephen is setting up the pit stop. How much fuel are we putting in? What tires are we putting on tires? What pressure are the tires? All of those kind of things gets done by the pit crew. In other words, the other drivers that are not driving. So you literally, all that you have to do is drive into the pits.
I completely agree. I think it's one of the bigger faults in ACC at least. And just, I think, all these issues around driver swaps and, having your team leader having to be the first one into the server, all that sort of thing. It shouldn't be something you need to worry about.
No. The guys driving out here, especially during, dark, they shouldn't be setting up pit stops. They should be focusing on keeping that car on the road.
Yeah, luckily, in the case of Spa, at least in our team, the pit lane so long, you get so much time to double check and make changes and everything. So it's quite safe. But then also you get different preferences between people. Like I myself, I'd rather on the straights get pressures and all the settings sorted, and then when I'm getting into the pit, I can just relax and make sure I get a proper straight up stop and everything is good. Then so it's a big con in ACC where it just shouldn't be necessary for one guy to have all that responsibility on him.
And let's hope that is something they look at in the future too. It's gonna, for me personally, make the sim more realistic. And let's face it, these guys driving here, they need to get on a straight and then go in the heads-up display, change the tire pressures and all of those kind of things. Where that's stuff that gets taken care of by your pit crew. They're the guys inflating the tires, not you.
Yeah.
One thing I really do hope, and it's one thing I learned very quickly when I tried ACC in VR, because your little menu where you set things up, and it's on a screen. It's on the left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah.
Easy as that. All right. When you're in VR, guess where that little box is?
Down between your legs.
Oh,
no, it's to the left-hand side on the door card to the bottom of the seat. So you've got to take your eyes completely off the road to make sure you've set the whole thing right. And that's something I do wish in VR. Please move it where it's a little bit more accessible, and I don't have to, look at, see if I've dropped change down the side of the seat to go for it. But these are things that Kunos will be addressing later on. They have spoken about AC2 coming out, development into it, developing more into accessible endurance racing, because they do want to take the fight and continue on their partnership with the SRO, the Fanatec GT3 series. They want to keep that partnership going and doing a little bit of development like that. I think it's the right move to do things, considering the sim from where it started to where it is now. It has progressed beautifully. One, it's stunning to look at. Two, it works. It really is something that has improved. Yes, we did go through a patch where, you wanted to set fire to it because of what it was, but they corrected it and they've improved it over time and added some fair content. Example, like the Porsche Cup cars, the Lamborghini Trofeo class, the GT4s, the TCRX cars. There's a little bit more racing in terms of tin tops and choices, but I think some of the fundamental bits they can't really change because it's too hard-coded. But the lessons are being learned now and going to be moved on to later iterations, which will be coming out. Unfortunately, we do know Assetto Corsa Competizione is the main dog at the moment, but like everything, at some point it does have a life and it will run out. And we just hope that Kunos goes and travels. And I do think one of the things that I'd like to see is for leagues to have a little bit of an easier time setting up races prior to everything, much like what other sims have got, where you can set timers to it. So it takes the stress of having to manually set everything up before, on the day of things. You can go and select the whole series to start at whatever time, and you go, right guys, here's the time, this is driver's briefing, and the server starts. I know a lot of sims do that now, but I'd like to see it for ease of use for not only the drivers but also the admin themselves, having a little bit more time to get things all okay. The little preparations that go into it.
Now,
that's where I want to see things start going, and I know Kunos is going to be driving into that direction of things.
Now, here's a question that I want to ask the two of you. Now, We all know AC2 is looming somewhere in the future. Do you guys think something like ACC is going to be incorporated into AC2, or is ACC still going to be a standalone thing, just getting aligned with AC2 to a certain extent?
I think if you look at what's been shown or showcased, or at least what's been said, it all points to AC2 being an evolution of all of this, right? So ideally, it should, like you touched on, it should be an evolution of what ACC has been, and they'll improve upon it, and I think we'll see people move over. So we're hoping. I mean, I'm hoping
it's almost, and we're not comparing sims, almost AC2 becoming like on iRacing, where there's a strong GT3 presence, but there's other cars, maybe other tracks as well involved.
Yeah.
So
I think once we see like AC2 come out, it's not going to be everyone moves to AC2 straight away.
No.
It's going to be a slow bleed off once everything's set.
Yeah.
And once it's set the grounds that it's comparable to a Assetto Corsa Competizione, they can slowly start. There will slowly be a shift.
Yeah.
And that is going to take, a year or two to eventually start having the guys filling it up. You're not going to have the sudden wham, here it is.
Yeah,
I think that's the wrong move of things, and it will be incorporated. There will be things to it, but I think to dethrone Assetto Corsa Competizione at the moment, considering it's the world standard of things, the FIA games raced on Assetto Corsa Competizione, they're not going to drop it anytime soon. The only reason they moved from Gran Turismo to Assetto Corsa Competizione is because of how the GT3 push has been and how much work they've done in that sim to try and mimic the real-life GT3 racing. And that's what it is. Get to the point of dethroning such a home staple name is like going into a house and removing Coca-Cola. Don't take Coca-Cola out the fridge and replace it with a generic, I can't even say Pepsi. You get the no-name brand. People will always know it's not Coca-Cola. It's not going to taste the same. To try and make something that's Coca-Cola, that's similar. But I just hope that the lessons that go into AC2, it's not going to be like what we've seen of Project Cars, where they've taken a lot of what was loved, thrown it out, made it a simcade to cater for the larger masses and forget about essentially the sim races. It's a lot of fun to drive around, but realistically, having no tire wear, not having no fuel usage, none of that takes a lot of what we enjoy in Assetto Corsa Competizione, where it's the strategy aspect of things and how it progresses a little bit forward.
Absolutely. Gents, I just want to touch on another topic. Stephen, you've been without power now for 9 odd hours?
Yep. It's a bit dark here. I can tell you that.
The original plan was for Stephen to take over the stream from now onwards. I'm going to be without power from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, and not exactly the right time of the day to start up a big noisy generator. So I have spoken to Bertus, so we're going to take a 2-hour break on the stream from about 2 o'clock. We're going to be back at 4 o'clock. Stephen, I suggest me and you, I don't know if me and you are going to get any sleep anyway, but I'm going to be back up at 4 o'clock, and then we're going to carry it right through till we're going to have to do a switch over at some stage, but we're going to carry it right through till the end of the race. If you guys are happy with that.
If my power comes back on, which they're expecting about 2:30, we'll get the stream up and going and get one get back into it. Well,
Okay, cool.
let's see if I'm allowed to in terms of whether Mr. Hugo is going to allow the Koenig to get back into the server. I mean, caused enough havoc on the commentary side of things, so...
Well,
Yeah,
Stephen, no.
maybe it's unwelcome.
In all fairness, and this is the point that I will drive with Mr. Hugo, we haven't exactly been doing commentary.
Look, we've been having an interesting chat with our viewers, our racers, and giving a different side, I would have to say a different look into things. Usually we talk about the sudden pace of things, we talk about BOPs, you get very technical. Round about this time of the morning, you wouldn't see too much people doing commentary. But we're chatting about evolutions in sim racing. We're chatting about the future of what things are going to be, what's going to be held, and looking onwards to what's going to be next for 2023 for RaceFace, for sim racing, and for the different teams. I think this type of what we've been chatting, yes, is a little bit more loose, but at the same time has shed some light into all the viewers that are out watching in YouTube land and being a part of everything. It's good to see the guys able to come and have a chat with us, to share their thoughts of how things are going, and also share their plans of what's next for their race. What is next going into the remaining hours of the race? And I'd love to actually hear from everyone of what's the plans heading into 2023 with their racing. What are you going to do? Are you going to go and race both in the Wednesday series, the Thursday series, the Enduro series? Are you going to see what's coming out next? What's in store? What's in the future of everything? I'd love to hear the stories, and also a little bit in the pits of all the stories that's going on from, the different teams that are slugging it out, because it's not only the drivers there. You do have one or two team managers that are just running things in the background, not racing and doing all the hard work. What's their stories? And how long everyone's been awake without getting any sleep, because that's going to tell what is the fatigue level at this point. I know Xenos at the moment, he's going to be a little bit more worn out, and considering he's going to be driving a little bit later, I don't envy you at all. Only thing I could say is that just be cautious of Eau Rouge, okay? That does get a little bit interesting.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Our car through there is, if you get the line right, it's happy. But we've been lifting quite a bit. So.
But that's exactly the thing, and that's something that I said right at the start of the stream. This is not going to be an action-packed commentary stream where we're going to go. This one is going side by side, and they're looking on the inside, and we do that on Wednesdays and Thursdays. This is going to be a kuier for 24 hours, and we're going to help each other through this one.
Yeah, it's all about trying to cheer each other on and talk about how people have done funny odd stretches and wear a crash helmet and a sim rig, and
the only thing
pedals funny, and
the only thing I'm seriously concerned about is Steven starting playing music at 4 o'clock in the morning, because that tends to happen in our endurance.
Nah, I'm not. I'm going to behave this time. I already worked with a guy called Prince in live on, on SA Endurance Series. It started raining, and I made my dad joke unknowingly. I turned around and I said, "So Prince, what color is it? Purple? Is the rain purple at this point?" And he packed out laughing. That was him done and dusted. I lost my co-commentator. They had us on camera for so long. I said, okay, now that everyone's seen our sexy faces, we're going to head over to Kriya, who was our pit reporter, and she couldn't even do an interview with a person because she was laughing. And this is unknowingly. So I've done my carnage for commentary and got my messages saying, listen, Steve, we've got to be a little bit more professional here.
Mark says on stream he's turning at 18 hours without sleep. Mark, I think I'm beating you because I was up at 3:30 this morning, so I'm almost going on 24 hours. But, you know, I just want to round things off. What's even worse is when Steven plays music and he's the only one that can hear it and he starts singing along. And, you know, and you start hearing his version of Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, without you hearing the music.
I've got a beautiful voice. Angels fall from the sky.
Exactly.
They must be trying to come and silence you, though.
No. You know when you hear about sonic trauma, and that can destruct and cause hemorrhage in the brain. I think that's more like it. Generally, when I start singing, it's either I'm bored, I'm trying to psych you out, or maybe there's a good song or two that's just come on, but it's completely random. I'm not the person that goes and talks about Irland going and chasing down cars and use the colourful language that comes from it. I'm more on the lines of, oh well, you know, sing a song or two, and I believe in my own head I can win the idol. I think.
You're what they call a legend in your own mind.
I've won the microphone in my bathroom multiple times. Don't stress about it. The shower loves me.
Yeah, guys, we need to round it up. We're going to take a break. We'll be back at about 4 in the morning. But Steve, you say if your power comes back on earlier, you're going to be on earlier. Just let me know, then I'll join you.
Hold it.
And we're going to further the carnage. But if Steven's power doesn't return, I'm going to be back at 4, starting the stream again, and we can continue our conversation and catch up on some of the racing that will be happening. But I'm thanking the both of you for joining me, and in third place at the moment, with Essie at the wheel. I wish you guys all the best of luck for the next 2 or so hours.
Yeah, thanks. It's been good fun, and see you later then.
Okay, thank you very much for joining, and all the viewers, we'll see you in about 2 hours time.